Roxy mentioned earlier, we have a live panel of these wonderful artists and people in the music industry that are here to discuss gender inequality and just issues that the industry faces and how the industry is dealing with those. My name is Rachel Fuego. I will be moderating this panel. I am a committee member for the MidWay Music Festival. I also work for local arts organizations in town, mainly Cardinal Stage Company. And I've had an honor to work with everyone on this festival and with these folks. MidWay, our mission is to connect and celebrate women in music, and all of our proceeds from today, as well as this evening's concerts, are going towards MidWay House and My Sister's Closet, two local nonprofits that do so much for women in our community right here in Bloomington. So with that, I'm going to briefly introduce these fine folks up here and then let them tell you a little bit more about themselves before we really dive into the discussion. So first off, we have Josh Johnson here. We have Fellaini De Castro. We have DJ Mad Dog, who you heard spinning earlier. She will be doing so more throughout the day. We have Shelly Westerhausen, and we have Nick Blanford. So thank you all for being here. Josh, I'll let you start by kind of saying who you're with and what you're doing.
So my name is Josh, and I own a very small business that does entertainment here in town called Mid by Midwest. I've worked in venues for a long time, booking lots of different acts, and currently sit on the committee for MidWay Music Festival.
Hello everybody, I'm Fellaini De Castro. I'm a musician. I play and perform guitar, sing. I usually play guitar, bossa nova, Brazilian popular music, very close to jazz. I also teach classes for children, very young babies, 0 to 5, music lessons. I own a business here since 2005, and I had more than 600 students until now. Some of them are teenagers, some of them are singing around. So Bloomington music together. And if you guys want to know about that, you can talk to me later.
I'm DJ Mad Dog. I'm a local and Midwest DJ, female DJ. I DJ around town. I've got residencies at the Back Door and the Root Cellar. I was at Pride a couple weeks ago. I spin mostly house and techno, and I recently got into music production, so hopefully that goes well.
My name is Shelly Westerhausen, and I work at Fellaini Distribution. We work with over 30 independent labels to sell their music across the United States, and I also do the marketing for all that.
My name is Nick Blanford. I work with Secretly Group, sister company of Secretly Distribution. We have 3 record labels that has our home office here, Dead Oceans, Jaguar, and Secretly Canadian.
Well, thank you all so much for being here. We're honored to have you on our panel. So we're going to just dive right into this. First question, kind of a hard-hitting one. What challenges have you faced or do you see in the music industry when it comes to gender inequality? How has that affected your genre or your leadership? How has your leadership position been affected? And whatever you can say to that. Anyone can start.
I know specifically for DJing, one of the big reasons why I got into it was because I didn't really see anyone else doing it, and it was something that I grew up in Chicago, Detroit, Florida, you know, on the radio you hear house music all the time. So that was stuff that I grew up on, and it wasn't really anything that I thought I could do until I got a little older and a little more mature, and I was like, oh, I can totally do this. So I kind of started doing it because I didn't see anyone else doing it, but in turn, I am one of a handful of people doing it, so I have to be, you know, really resourceful. I have to hustle. I have to kind of get scrappy at times, and you know, just take on things that might not be, you know, internally fulfilling, but I know big picture, long term, it'll help me out. So yeah, I guess being someone who I don't have a lot of people to ask
I think I have a lot of experiences in my life, being a musician and also being a woman. It is not easy. The profession itself, time-wise, many hours of rehearsal. I had my daughters, I was breastfeeding them and rehearsing at the same time. This is, I think, is a unique experience that women face. As well, like having your baby in the back waiting for you when you finish, and then you go back up the stage, and they also there with that. So those are simple things, but like playing hours that it's not the hours that it's usually the mom should be home and taking care of kids. We also, I think like being a woman and having a career as a musician, it taught me a lot of lessons. And it taught me a lesson of that sometimes I have to really stand for myself, in a sense that I have been part of a band of 8. I was the only woman. And believe me or not, sometimes they would talk among themselves like I didn't even exist, making decisions or whatever. And it was very hard. And so I think like it is already hard to be an artist and to be a musician. I think the women that choose to have this career and go over all the extra difficulties that we have just being a woman. So I think it needs to be recognized and also needs to be empowered in somehow. So I am very thankful for these young people here putting this festival together and giving us the opportunity to talk about that, because there are several situations that we go through. Like I had people coming, and even like musicians coming to me and say, wow, for a woman, you play so good. You really play very well. And I really didn't know, should I take it as a compliment or should I just say like, whatever guy, you know? So it is I think what is happening here now, I know it's local, it's Bloomington, but I think it's very important. And I know that we are also live, so great people, women, musicians, it's not easy.
Thank you. Thank you for answering. Do you guys have any experience, or have you seen things within the industry that you may have confronted, especially as employers as well?
I know I've literally been denied gigs because I was told it would be too much of a gimmick to have a female DJ. They didn't even need to listen to my technique or how I played or what I played, but I was denied a gig because it would be too gimmicky to have a female on a bill.
Yeah, I think that's a common problem, is that female should not have to be a modifier for musicians. It's not a genre in itself. And I think that needs to be stripped away. I think DJ Mad Dog is working in a particularly difficult area where I think engineering and producing, I think are particularly heavy voice club area of the industry. And so I think that what men can do is just be aware of position of privilege and not indulge in those boys club tendencies, and particularly if you're in a position to hire people or book talent or produce talent or whatever position you might be in, to keep that as a completely open platform for all musicians.
Yes, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I agree. everything everyone said. I think only a little bit to add to that. I think with working in, from the side of booking and venue management for a long time is how systemic it is, and how the idea of, and Valerie and I were actually talking about this, how certain instruments are seen as acceptable for women to play. Certain positions are seen as acceptable for women to take, and many others aren't. And so I think that that's something that I've seen from my standpoint of what people in the scene, what other musicians, what other bands accept women's places to be. That's obviously a very problematic thing that we need to work towards, and we had a really good conversation about how we sort of approach that as a community and encourage young women to go after some of those things that, exactly like what DJ Mad Dog is doing. And I think that that's a good place to start from a booking perspective, is to make sure that everybody feels super comfortable in these venues, in these places, regardless of what that position is and what the expectation is of where you should be based on your gender.
So, a question, Shelley, is probably more directed towards you as far as administrative and being a woman who's actually working in the industry, not necessarily as a musician, but as someone who's more behind the scenes and distribution and things like that. But also for all of you, are there different ways to approach issues or problems that come up, or have you ever had to kind of change the way that you communicate or interact with people based on your gender that you identify with?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think a big thing that you kind of learn early on is you have to just be assertive without being forceful, because when you're a woman, that can easily be seen as you're a threat if you're too forceful, and then you're just going to get talked over if you're not assertive. So that's definitely something that I think happens in this industry, and it happens in every industry with women.
But you have the double standard where if a man is forceful or projects himself, then they're strong.
Yeah.
Whereas if I were to say, lay my hand down and be like, no, Kilroy's recess, I'm not going to play at your bar, then I'm pardon my French, bitchy. So I think some expectations of, and female social norms and behavior expectations kind of need to change.
Do you think it's more prominent in the music industry versus other areas?
Yeah, I mean, Hollywood, it's everywhere, I would say.
Well, I had some experiences, and I was comment the other day with Rachel as well. I feel like this kind of environment, it made me so hard. I became a very, very hard person. Like she was saying, if the man shows that they are strong, so I think like my process was, yeah, I need to be strong. So I'm gonna scream when you scream, and I'm gonna, whatever. What I do recently, I just block them on Facebook. It's less painful, and they don't even know what's going on. So, but before that possibility, I would have to really stand for myself. I had people that I block on my phone. I had other colleagues and musicians, and I don't think they realized that, but they were being very aggressive, and they were being very machista, and that they want things to go their way, and they could not even understand that there was another way to be. So the fun thing is, they are all relying on me to sing the songs, and I am the main leader in the group, usually because I play Brazilian music and I am the Brazilian, right? So anyway, it does transform you in a sense that I feel today that the way that I present myself as a musician dealing with somebody, it's a completely different person that gets into the stage and starts singing and playing the guitar, which is a very soft and sweet music. So, and when I see this contrast, I was saying to Rachel the other day, I said, there was a point that I said, oh my goodness, I should have had music as a hobby and not as my life, because it is so hard. And I became such a hard person that I'm ready to fight you at any moment or block you at Facebook.
When you interact with other musicians or other artists or people that you work with in the industry, do you notice a difference on how you interact with them, but also just the general atmosphere when it's all women in a band or on stage or doing the production in the crew, or a majority of women that you're working with versus when it's a very male-dominated space?
You mentioned boys club. I like that. To use that phrase a lot because it can feel like that really fast when you get to a gig with a bunch of dude DJs and and you discuss slot times prior, like, okay, you're 55 minutes, we're all 55 minutes, or we're all an hour and a half, or whatever. But it's funny how when you get in that space, how territorial it becomes. And like, I've literally had, I've had my sets cut short, or I've had people start playing over me and stuff, and that, I don't know if that would happen if I were a guy, but it definitely doesn't happen when I'm playing with other female DJs, but it's things that I've experienced when I felt at a boys club.
Do you often get to play with other female DJs?
Oh yeah, I did at Pride. The other resident DJ at the back door is DJ Pixie. She's a female woman.
Does anyone else have any experiences of when you're performing with other artists?
Yeah, I do. I have lots of experience. But yeah, there is a big difference, at least that's how I understand. And and it's not about number, because even when I play just me and another man, or me and another woman, it's a completely different atmosphere. So one of the things that, just to give you an example, when I play with another man, we kind of almost count the bars the time that we are improvising. So nobody improvises more than another one. So we need to be very sure that I'm not taking their space and they are being as much as a star as I am. When I play with other women, we just share. And we naturally let the other one. It's a much more gentle approach, in a sense that is not fear behind it. I think that what I'm saying now is just something that is coming to my mind now. Don't take it as a truth for life. But I do think that there is a lot of fear from the male side that we are taking over. Or I don't even know which fear is that. Maybe just a fear that they don't even have a name to add. But I do feel it so intensely when we are playing together. That is this kind of competition, but it's not a competition, it's kind of power management stress that comes out. And in my experience, every time that I played with other women, and actually I play now with Tina Elsafar from Salam, and we enjoy every single time. And there is no time that we get out of there, and we help each other carrying the instruments. We are all cool. So the men, they carry his instrument, they put it there in the stage, they go and get their beer, and they are waiting on you to sit your instruments, because you should take care of your side, right? Because you are here and you are equal. It's very funny, but it does happen.
It doesn't happen all the time, but my memorable instances have always been with a male counterpart.
So next question is, what has helped you address gender inequality in the music industry, and are there any tips or organizations or institutions that have helped you overcome obstacles that you'd like to share?
The back door, I love. It's a bar. The back door is a bar. They have been super supportive of what I'm trying to do, and I can't thank Nikki and Smooth of the back door more enough. That it's a safe space, it's a feminist space, space. Every time I go in there, I feel like I'm at home, I'm welcome. It's almost like a church.
I think for me, it's finding a role model within the industry, a woman role model, and being able to talk to her about these things and see how she handles these difficult situations. And I know there's a lot of really great organizations out there for women in music too, like this, events like this, and then Women in Music has chapters all over the country that I was part of international when I lived there, and then there's Girls Rock in Indianapolis, which is also really great.
And secretly, just for both of you, have you noticed anything when you work with other artists or musicians, or when you have your bands on tour? Do they ever come and talk to you about different things that they're experiencing, and how do you all support female acts?
Yeah, I think especially speaking with artists, female artists, I think one common thing that they battle against is even if they're a solo artist or the front person of a band, that there's this perception by some folks that, oh, they're just the front. They're not the songwriter, they're not the one producing. I think that even when someone's the one when a woman is the one in a press photo or something like that, I think there's still always a battle for the due credit for the creative and the ownership over the art, which I think is emblematic of just a broader social cultural issue that we have. But I think that the big thing is just men not indulging that boys club, and just calling out situations where people are abusing privilege. I think in a setting exactly like this, I'm asked to be on a panel. I tend to ask who else is on it. As far as I'm concerned, I never want to be on an all-male panel. And I think there are little things like that men should just be really mindful of, and not even passively taking advantage of privilege.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking too. I think that brings up a great point of addressing that when you see it. I mean, I think the role of men in this too. I mean, it's not just about Mad Dog and Valerie and all the women here that are performing, taking steps to do that. It's about how we as men in the music industry can help with gender inequality and can help, as Nick was saying, calling that out, addressing it, right? Letting people know that they're doing it. I think, it's something that I think we all should be thinking about ourselves and our privilege as men in the music industry and how that affects our decisions. And when that does happen, to ask those questions that Nick had brought up. And I think that's a good start for us to help with that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like we were talking earlier about our instances where we were cut for time, or they didn't help set our gear up. It's like maybe they didn't know they were doing that. Maybe this is something that they just, no one told them out on it. So I agree with them that we need to just be like, hey, why don't you help that young lady set up her gear? Or hey, you cut that girl off by 10 minutes, just speaking up.
I might ask you to repeat that once the helicopters fly over. Give it a second. Alright, if you want to sum up what you said.
You heard it? Okay. We're clear? Okay. I was saying that maybe these men who, didn't help us set up our gear or cut us off on time didn't know what they were doing, and maybe they just need a male friend or just anyone to be like, hey, do you realize you did X? Maybe you should have done that, and just have someone very rationally explain to them why what they did was, wrong or whatever, just letting people know that, hey, this is up.
Well, I want to say something, but it's not quite related to that, and maybe it is. Okay, so I was thinking, what would be next? Because as you guys see, I always think what is good now is that it is late, but it's not too late. So we are now talking about it and trying to change it. So I really feel like it is important, and I don't know if it's for them to do that or for next generations, but what I would really like to see is more encouragement and working from teenagers, from younger girls that have heard an example that she did pursue what she wants, although, like was mentioned before, Mom will put you in a piano class, girl, and if you want to be a DJ, you're going to have to find your way there. So I need to see more like women playing those weird instruments, right? And sometimes like even saying the woman plays the drum, the woman plays the bass, the woman plays the trombone, it sounds kind of exotic, right? We can imagine the women singing, playing piano, guitar. I play guitar, like I said, many people said, oh, you play well for being a woman. So I really feel like it would be wonderful, and I think Bloomington is a perfect place to start, is to really empower very young women, so they know that there is a different path and they can really believe and trust, and that the world will be there for them, that they don't need to be fighting their way all the way every day. And that yes, there is hope.
That girls rock organization I was talking about in Indianapolis, they teach young girls basically instruments that aren't necessarily that you wouldn't associate girls with or whatever. And so they actually just did a engineer program for girls between like 10 and 15, I think, months ago. And I think we just need to see more things like that. Like I wish I would have had an opportunity like that when I was young.
That is a great segue into my final question, was what can Bloomington do as a community to really promote equality in the music industry and for women artists, performers, and administrators. I think arts administration in the music industry and in other arts organizations is also prevalent. If anyone else has any final comments to add on that.
I mean, this was one thing I noticed just when I saw that question, was that I don't see a lot of female headliners, like, just in, like, on any marquees, really. Most of the time I see, like, male-fronted bands, or just male DJs, or, R&B, whatever. And most of these headliners are male, although, that's not to say, like, an opener is, female-fronted band, or what have you, but I think it would be nice to see some more female acts, like, on some marquees around town.
And that's actually one of the major goals for next year's festival for MidWay, is to get some national touring acts, get some bigger acts that could be headliners for bigger places like the Bluebird, like the Busker, and to help with exactly what that problem is. And I agree completely. And I was talking with Dave Kubiak from the Bluebird about this. The amount of female solo or female fronted headliners that he has at the Bluebird is very small, right? And so we were talking about how we can look into progressing that, and where we can go with that, and how we can then apply that to the festival for next year. So I think having those conversations with people to look into that in our own community, right? Why is this happening this way, right? Identifying it, asking why it's happening, and then trying to work with people that if you bring it up to them, likely will be behind us and interested in helping us. So I think that's a really good point that Mad Dog brings up, and hopefully something that MidWay can help with next year and for a long time after.
Any other final comments before we conclude our panel? Well, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you everybody for joining us for this panel, as well as the festival in general. Stick around, we have some incredible activities that are going on around the courthouse lawn for the rest of the day until about 8 p.m. And we also have Straight Davis, Liberation Music Collective, and our daytime headliner Royalty performing all afternoon, as well as DJ Mad Dog, who will be DJing again. And then tonight at the Bishop Blockhouse and Players Pub, we will have more acts to follow. So we hope you join us for that as well. Thank you.